11 o'clock, welcome in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you on your Tuesday. And as we're going to do each and every day this week, figured I would kick things off with talking about our greatest moments in Gamecock sports history since the year 2000. Again, we've got these polls going on all week long. We're going to take the 4 winners this week, translate them over to another poll next week, and announce the winner coming up on August 12th. All brought to you by our friends over at Columbia Craft on Green Street down in the Vista. Today's options are the second College World Series title against Florida, winning the SEC East at Florida in 2010, the win against Florida in the Elite Eight in 2017, heavy Florida influence in today's list, as well as beating Tennessee at home in 2022. Maybe a little bit of a tougher choice compared to yesterday where you just had the national championship dominating over the other options.
Yeah, so I think it's the football choices are going to win this one. Now, here's the question. How old are our voters? Because
good question.
The younger crowd is going to vote for the Tennessee game.
Sure.
The older crowd is going to vote for Florida. So,
from winning the East at Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
So that one, this one has a little bit more intrigue. There's a right answer, but this one has a little more intrigue.
I'll be curious to see what your answer is because of the ground rule that you set yesterday. Will you go against your own rule? Maybe. Stay tuned. I mean,
what was my rule?
Well, you said you got to lean towards championships.
Oh, I did say that.
So you're going to break your own rule. It's pretty obvious. I agreed with you, actually. I think maybe it depends on the context, though.
There is an element, though, especially doing it back-to-back years. The second championship isn't going to be quite as special as the first one. Still great, obviously, but I don't know if people would say the second one is always going to be as one of their definitive favorite moments compared to what the first one was, which, again, is the first one that the program had ever had.
Yes, very true. It does depend on the context, right? I eliminated, again, not to diminish it, but I immediately eliminated the basketball Elite Eight win.
Okay.
Now that was awesome.
It was just a path. That was your path to get to the Final Four.
You got to the Final Four because of that,
right?
Which you had obviously not done before. So that was historical and it was awesome. But the way that I looked at it was, okay, the Florida baseball win was a championship. And then you do kind of lean toward football, right? I mean, the SEC East title was something that had not been done either, and it was in the swamp. And I just personally have kind of a soft spot for the night that Tennessee game was, just because it was so unexpected, and there was an aura in that stadium that you don't see very often. And it was really something else. I'm going to need to think about it, though.
Are you don't have to say which way, but are you leaning?
Yeah, I have a lean.
So I feel like the basketball one is not going to get picked, but it's maybe not presented as well as it could be for some picks, because so South Carolina, y'all know I'm getting old. So South Carolina beat Florida to go to the Final Four.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is, so
that was the last win of the season in the Final Four year.
Yep.
Yeah, so when you see Elite Eight, you're kind of like, the Elite Eight.
The Elite Eight, yeah.
But really, it was South Carolina advances to the Final Four is the moment.
If it's phrased as punching ticket to the Final Four by beating Florida, that's maybe a better way to put it.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it looks different.
Because now, dude, the Final Four run was one of the best moments in South Carolina athletic history.
It's awesome.
If you just think of it, if you're just a passerby scrolling on Twitter, which we all do, and you're just like, I'm going to vote on this real quick. I was the Elite Eight. That's not the Final Four. No, that was the advancement to the Final Four.
So now we're getting into the psychology of how you phrase these things and how people vote on it.
It's
But
legit,
seriously,
It is
it's-
legit.
If
I
you think
get
of the
it. I
Elite
get
Eight,
it.
no one cares about the Elite Eight.
Right.
which is sad.
Final Four.
Just the Elite Eight. Terrible,
Final
terrible
Four.
year.
Just one of the 8 best teams in the country. That's all.
It's all about perception.
It was just like Tyler said. Second national title. Yeah, no biggie.
It's just a second
And
one,
then
right?
they made
row.
it to the title game,
Yeah.
title series, the third year.
So
no big deal.
theoretically, the third one would just been nobody would have cared. at that
Nobody
point.
cares. Nobody will vote for it.
But then you're talking about dynasty
Right.
at that point. But I mean, just making it to a third in a row
It's insane.
by itself might be one of the single greatest accomplishments in South Carolina sports history. But
And how
anyway,
many games straight they won in the tournament.
Yeah, that was
Will that ever be topped?
stupid.
Yeah, I don't think so.
This one has a little more intrigue, I think.
It does. It's a little more debatable. Where it sits right now, again, we still got 13 hours left on this thing. The second World Series title is currently leading the way.
Really?
44.9%. Winning the East at Florida, second at 26.4. The Elite Eight win at 16.2. Beating Tennessee is actually in last at 12.5 right now. I would have figured
Yeah.
that might have actually been the leader right now.
I feel pretty confident that most Gamecock fans, kind of around my age bracket, would say the East, like winning the East at Florida. Dude, do you remember the moment when that happened? Like that
I do.
that was just different.
And it was a pretty convincing win at that. It wasn't a nail biter, so there was a comfortability to it, too, that you won the East in Florida by a, 22-point margin as well?
It was a dominant win. Florida, I think, returned the opening kickoff.
I was going to say it was comfortable, sometime after that.
After that.
Which is apparently it's a bad omen for your team if you return the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Like you would think that would be a great start to a game. It's not.
Unless the South Carolina A&M broke that a little bit.
That is true.
Because I remember during that game going, you remember when it looked like A&M was going to come back? They
Yeah.
made it really tight at the end, and you're sitting there going, God, they cursed themselves by running the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. But
South Carolina Clemson in 2009.
yeah, Beamer talks about that one a lot.
What was after an offside, I think, on the
They convinced
kickoff team.
They convinced Beamer. The players convinced Beamer to let him re-kick it. Ran it back for a touchdown.
I remember a guy near me after that happened just having an absolute meltdown. Like, we talked all week long about not letting him beat us, and then we kicked the ball straight to, was that Spiller?
It was Spiller. Oh, yeah. Kicked it right to him. They had a moment. He had a moment.
It was a
He's working it out.
meltdown of a moment. But no, so then that game, Florida returns it. National title game, Ohio State, didn't they return the opening kickoff back against Florida?
I don't remember that one.
I'll check on that.
I'm almost positive one of the Urban Meyer national title wins. They returned the opening kickoff, and then it was nothing for them from that point forward. But anyway, back to our topic here.
Yes, Ted Ginn Jr., 93-yard kickoff touchdown.
But then Florida crushed them. I feel like.
41-14.
Yes.
Yikes.
The thing about that, the other thing about that East championship basically is that South Carolina was in position to do it before, I think, and Arkansas, who under Petrino just was a thorn in South Carolina's side. South Carolina had Arkansas at home. They had Jadeveon Clowney taking his official visit, and Arkansas just controlled the entire game, really beat them handily. It was one of those games that the score didn't even indicate how much South Carolina got beat that day. And so there was a sense going into the Florida game of, oh, here we go again. And then what happens? Florida returns the opening kickoff, and it's really here we go again. But then South Carolina says, no, we're going to hand the ball to Marcus Lattimore, and you're not going to stop him. And then that was that.
Right.
40 for 212 and 3 touchdowns. And an iconic just moment in Gamecock history. You remember when one of the times Lattimore, I believe, yeah, he did score and then just completely, just like basically collapsed, like laid out, arms sprawled on his back, like exhausted. He and Pat DeMarco. DeMarco out there, the little lead draw.
I still want to know what Steven Garcia told that Florida player
Will Hill.
as he truck sticked him going into the end zone.
Not safe for air.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. And again, this is the greatest moments in Gamecock history since the year 2000, brought to you by our friends at Columbia Craft on Green Street down in the Vista. Coming up next, we'll be talking to a former South Carolina quarterback in Jason Brown, get his thoughts as we get it set to head into the 2024 season. Also, see what his thoughts on College Football 25 is, as he's been streaming quite a bit lately. That's coming up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
All right, 11:11 here on the game, and that means it's about lunchtime. So if you're hungry, go check out our favorite spot. Is Firehouse Subs, of course, as you know, presenting sponsor every day of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Here on the game, they make it super easy to order. Using the Rapid Rescue to Go, you can avoid the wait and order online, whether it's lunch, whether it's dinner, or that catering order for the event that you're putting on. Firehouse Subs has 14 different convenient locations around the Midlands, so no matter where you are, there's a Firehouse Subs close to you. Go find the closest one near to you by using firehousesubs.com or downloading the Firehouse Subs app. That's my favorite method because you can earn yourself some rewards toward future purchases when you register for a free account. Go check out all your Firehouse Subs favorites, the hook and ladder, the Italian, meatball, whatever you're in the mood for today, they can do it for you. Rapid Rescue to Go. Avoid the wait and order online, firehousesubs.com.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you here on your Tuesday. We head out to the Love Chevrolet phone lines. Welcome in a former Gamecock quarterback, Jason Brown. Jason, first of all, appreciate your time this morning. You know, we like to talk a lot about the College Football 25 video game. You seem to be quite an enjoyer of it yourself with your live streaming on Twitch. What's your assessment of the game after a couple weeks so far?
Man, I feel like we waited 11 years for it, man. It's just fun to play. I like going out there with South Carolina, just reliving what I lived. You know, just going out there and just beating on everybody. I still haven't lost to Florida, not even in that game. So, you know, it's pretty fun though, man.
Jason, we might get back to the game here in a second, but let's talk a little bit about your career first, man. It seems like, especially on like the social media side of things, you were here for a year, but you were really able to create some moments and kind of connect with this fan base. You know, you mentioned that Florida game. That was obviously a special moment, really kind of getting the Beamer era going and kind of jumpstart that season. But what do you just most remember about your time here at South Carolina, and kind of why do you think you've been able to connect with this fan base so much?
You know, I just remember all the people that I met along the way, man. I mean, I still talk to Luke like every day. He's one of my best friends. You know, just being able to go out there with those guys and just win those games, and then just know that I had a good supporting cast around me, the best fans in the country. You know, I mean, they still show me love to this day. And, you know, I only went out there and won 2 football games at the end of the day. But, you know, that was just big for the program and big for everything that South Carolina is about, man. And, you know, it's just a very special moment. And, you know, if I could redo it, I would have stayed and, you know, never left. But, you know, it's just how it worked out back then. But, you know, if I could redo it again, I would have never left and I would have stayed, that's for sure.
Joined now by former South Carolina quarterback Jason Brown. Jason, you mentioned that Florida game, and it's popped up. I feel like every now and then on Twitter you'll see videos from that game, and it's a nice moment for Gamecock fans to talk a little bit of trash on there too. What do you remember about just being, you know, in the helmet, in the huddle as that game was playing out? Are there any like insights we haven't heard? Like you were just on one that day. You had the big throws down the field to you know, to several guys. Of course, that video that USC made after with Josh Vann, that was probably one of the best videos they've ever done, where he's got like nobody within 30 yards of him.
Yeah, he was sitting wide open.
Yeah, what do you remember about some of those kind of scramble plays you made and just kind of the lead into that game? Were y'all really confident, or just maybe give us a little bit more insight from inside the huddle?
No, we were definitely really confident. No, I think a big part of it was just I was really confident, and then the guys around me were really confident as well, you know, outside of everybody in the football building, honestly. I mean, I was a third-string quarterback for a while, so not a lot of people thought that, you know, we would go out there and win. We were 22-point underdogs or something like that, so, you know, there wasn't a lot of hopes for us that night, but I just kept telling myself, like, there's no pressure. I mean, I'm the third-string quarterback. I'm going to go out there and just play my game. People aren't expecting a lot, honestly. So I didn't really feel like there was any pressure because nobody would be expecting a lot except for the people that were in the building with me that day. And, you know, when I put the helmet on, I was out there going through the warm-ups, and I was like, I just got to play my game today. And, I mean, I've been playing the same game since I was 5, so, you know, it was just cool to go out there and just show the rest of the world what I was able to do.
Jason, Chris Clark here. Thanks again for taking time to join us, man. Yeah, real quick on the Florida game. The other day, Wes, I saw Jabari Ellis in the facility, and I thought about Jason as well. But, Jason, you remember Jabari with his big fumble recovery. I wonder if he still has a little chomp sitting on the shelf somewhere.
I was about to say, he might still have a little chomp somewhere.
Well, you know, you mentioned the other big win that year, though, was the Auburn game. And, man, Florida was obviously a lot of fun, as you just described, but the Auburn one was big, too. I know it meant a lot to a lot of people around the program, and you had a big game in that one, too, kind of quietly, you know, 10 for 15, threw 3 touchdowns in that game. Tell us about that one and look back on that one a little bit, because I think it gets lost a little bit in the shuffle with that in the Florida game.
Yeah, that one was more – we had to dig for that win, because I remember they went down, scored. Then we're driving the field, and I throw a crazy interception. I didn't even see the safety. I threw it right to him. And I believe we went down 14-0. But, you know, just even when we went down 14-0, you know, I went to the sideline after the interception. They scored. There was never a time of doubt on that sideline. And I think that's one of the reasons, like, we were able to come back because we believed that we could win that game the whole time. We didn't think that team was better than us. And, you know, at the end of the game, thankfully that punt hit his leg. And, you know, we were just able to come out on top, man. That one was fun, too. I don't think I slept that night.
So that's a great question. I was going to ask you something else, but since you brought it up, you know, they're not going to go back and change the score or make you go replay the game. So you do think, for the record, that the punt did hit his leg?
Yeah, I definitely do think so.
All right, just wanted to get you on the record there.
Whoever was on the camera, they needed a raise that day. They zoomed in on it on the big screen, and I didn't think it hit him at first, but then once they zoomed in, yeah, they for sure hit him. Whoever was on that camera that day, they definitely needed a raise.
Did you a solid for sure. All right, so let's go to your gaming. My first question about the game is, when you're playing, and I know I've seen you've been doing some damage with Lenoris Sellers, have you taught the digital version of Lenoris the Jason Brown spin out? Is that employed in the game?
It's in there. I try not to use it as much because it ended up getting me in trouble when I was playing. But no, it's definitely in there. I'll just run around with them and just throw it to people. Just try to make clips just to post on Twitter, and half the time it works. So.
Yeah, and so Jason, I tell you what, y'all had one play that season that just kind of stands out to me because I think it almost became a video game cheat code itself. What was that play call to Z White that I feel like y'all hit like 5 times for big plays?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like I actually have the Auburn game pulled up right now. You were right. Y'all were down 14-0. Yep. It's 4th and 3.
Yeah, we went 4th and 3. Went out the backside to the left. Yep.
I think y'all hit the same play late against Missouri, or a similar play to Z White that busted out for and. Why was that one play? It felt like it hit every time. Can you take us through the concept there? Do you remember?
Yeah. So it was just a mesh, and we ran that every time a team went in man coverage, and we needed like a first down. Mm-hmm. So Z White would start on the opposite side, and you know we're just running mesh, so it's man coverage. So the linebacker that's guarding Z White's on the right side of the field if he's lined up on my right, so he's to the right of us. But then he's got to get through all that traffic that's going through. Uh-huh. So Z White just slips through the O-line out the other side. You know, and that linebacker that's playing man coverage on him has to get through the people that are coming across his face, get through his own players as well. So it's just hard for them to keep up in man coverage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that's not open, I mean, I have the drag routes that are going to be there that are wide open in man as well. So you know, I really have my choice. That's a great play that Seth had drawn up. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that thing was beautiful, man. Going back to the video game here real quick before we let you go, how much does playing quarterback in real life actually translate over to the game? Like, how accurate do you think they got it in terms of attacking particular defensive coverages with particular offensive concepts? Like, is it deep enough that you think they got it right, or is it still you're just kind of like, all right, this is still just a video game?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, the game's a little arcadey, which makes it fun. But, you know, just from attacking a defensive point, from that point, it's easy to strip defenses over just because I know so much about defenses. So, and then in this game, they finally gave us the ability to do more hot routes. So now I can put somebody on a post to beat cover 4 or put them on a corner to beat something else. You know what I'm saying? So there's a bunch of different hot routes in the game now, which makes it easier. So, I mean, you guys know I played quarterback, so I know a lot about defenses. So just being able to have those extra hot routes in the game just makes it that much easier. So, I mean, that's why my record's like 50-8 online. So,
yeah, and I guess for our gamers who are listening, man, do you want to give them your like Twitch name, how they can find you, and all that stuff? I know you're kind of wanting to grow that channel a little bit.
Yeah, so it's just if you just go to Twitch and just type in, so my name is the boy JB, so it's YABOIIIJB. It's all over my Twitter too. So if you go to my Twitter, it's all over there. And I stream there like 5 times a week, just
Awesome.
trying to make some money playing that, and I've been able to do that a little bit, so
Yeah.
it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, and man, before you go, do you have any impersonations for us? Do we got a water boy in you today? Is there any chance?
I might do one when I come back for Texas A&M for homecoming.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Save that, man, and we'd love to have you on again. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate it, Jason, and
Yep.
again, you can check him out.
Thank you, guys.
Check him
Thank you,
out
man.
at ya boy Jason on Twitch there for all of his CFB 25 live streams. We'll come back, continue on with today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the game.
All right, our friends over at Integrated Media can help take your home to the next level from an audio-visual standpoint. Michael and Nathan, they've been out to my home. They've been out to Wes Mitchell's home. They can come out to your home or your business and help turn it into a smart home or business. And with a smart home system, you can control your lights, your devices, your thermostats, your security and cameras, all that good stuff from the touch of a button on your smartphone, whether you're at home or you're away from your home. They can do so many different things for you. If you want to trick out that man cave, if you need inspiration ideas for your patio, your outdoor space, or if it's just something as simple as, man, I want to know what the best new TV is. I want a wireless sound system. I want to make sure that my internet is good enough to be able to stream across multiple devices in my home. They can do all that for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com, 803-948-8327, or check out their inspiration for your home, Integrated Media Columbia on Instagram or Facebook.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you on this Tuesday. Reminder, Ultimate Season Ticket Giveaway is live on 1075thegame.com. Go on there, enter for your chance to win tickets to every home football, baseball, men's and women's basketball game for South Carolina this upcoming 2024-2025 sports calendar. It's all brought to you by our friends over at the Men's Clinic. And again, we'll take our 3 finalists like we did last year for our preseason golf tournament at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia on August 23rd, and we'll announce the winner there. So again, go online to 1075thegame.com and enter for your chance to win the Ultimate Season Ticket Giveaway. Continuing to make our way through some of the things that Coach Beamer and the assistants talked about at Birdies with Beamer last Thursday. One thing, and this news had come out the day before, we talked about it when we were out at Firehouse Subs, but the expanded scholarships for most programs at universities starting as soon as next fall, including 20 more scholarships being added to football, bringing that total up to 105. Here's Coach Beamer Thursday talking about how that will affect not only football in general, but the program here at South Carolina.
Don't know yet, and that's part of the conversation that I had with Coach Tanner. I don't know. I think those are all things that we're still working through as well, not just the University of South Carolina, but the SEC as a whole. The SEC, us as head coaches, pretty much stance was we don't want to lose walk-ons. So does that look like the walk-ons are now part of your 105 guys? I don't know. I think those are all things that are being decided at a level above mine as well.
Do you feel like the coaches had enough input in this conversation?
I do. No, we met with when we were down in Destin for SEC meetings. That was the 2 days that we were there. There were some pretty heated and thorough discussions about the roster numbers. And then our last day there, we had a session in the morning with all of the athletic directors, where it was every head coach and every head football coach and every athletic director in the SEC went in one room, and that was a pretty spirited conversation with the ADs. It was great, but the head coaches were very adamant about what they felt like we needed in order to have a roster the way we needed to have it in order to go win football games as well. And I appreciate the ADs, the presidents, the conference commissioners, everyone else that's making those decisions, understanding that. And we came in that meeting, I think every head coach, not just in the SEC, but probably across the country, just made it clear, like, here's why 85 isn't going to work if you're a college football program right now, and why we need it. Nobody's asking for 130, nobody's asking for 140, but 85's not the answer.
That, of course, head coach Shane Beamer at Birdies with Beamer last week, talking about I guess it's a fairly big topic in college football. There are so many big topics that have to do with the rules and the changes and all that. I don't know if the average fan, I don't know if this moves the needle for them, Chris. It maybe is a little too deep in the weeds for them to be like, that's something I care about.
Yeah.
But if you're a head coach, if you're a coordinator, if you're a director of player personnel and you're talking about how do you build a roster, shoot, dude, if you're on the side of this thing in the athletic department where you're trying to balance the budget, so to speak, this is a huge part of your job. And so I'll be curious to see what happens. Obviously, different schools will take different approaches, Chris, and then maybe whichever ones are working the best. It's a copycat. Sports are always, every league is a copycat league, I think. So, that said, man, I just can't see a world where if you have the resources to go full 105, as competitive as college football is, as competitive as SEC, Big Ten, and I would even say, let's not forget the Big 12, man. As much as we think it's SEC and Big Ten, Big 12 has made moves to hang in there. As competitive as it is, our team's really going to be like, we'll just use 90 scholarships. I just can't see that. If you have the resources, ultimately, I think teams for the most part are going to max this thing out.
Yeah, which is challenging. You got to remember, schools, athletics departments are generally in a better spot now, but you remember it wasn't that long ago that they just underwent a massive loss in revenue when COVID was going on. And that was not that long ago. And so you're coming out of that. A lot of schools have already been considering or doing restructuring. Remember at Texas A&M, it was reported very notably they got rid of some, pretty notable positions within their athletics department to kind of mirror the current state of college athletics. So what you already have is the house payments coming down. That settlement is getting closer and closer. It's not like those payments are going to start tomorrow, but that is being budgeted by all the different schools. And you think of that cap at, 22 million, it goes back to what you just said, Wes. If you have the resources and the capability at all as a school, you've got to do that to keep up with the Joneses. You can't be an SEC school. You can't be South Carolina and say, I know the cap's 22 million, but we'll probably do about 5 and we'll be fine. You will not be fine. You will lose. And so in keeping up with the Joneses in other areas, if every other SEC school says, we're going to carry a full boat of 105 scholarships, if you don't do that, it potentially makes it more challenging. But to back up as to what this means, you now have a smaller roster. Right now in college football, you can have, 120 players on your roster, but only 85 of those can be scholarship. So what they're doing is they've shrunk the roster limits, but they've increased the amount of scholarship. If you want to give every one of those 105 players a scholarship, you can. You could choose to run a pseudo walk-on program. You could say we're going to give out 85 scholarships, 86 through 105 gets no scholarship money, partial scholarship money. You can handle it in a variety of ways. And what Beamer was saying there is that we don't really know how we're going to handle it or how others are going to handle it yet.
But if Georgia, is Georgia going to?
Yeah, don't know.
Well, I think
Probably.
I mean, I just there's no way you don't.
Kirby is now allotted 27 defensive tackles in this class.
Well, and like Wes was mentioning, it's every league is a copycat league to a degree. So you might have a different idea going into it, but as soon as you see what's being successful at one place, whether it be Georgia, Alabama, or whatever it may be, I feel like you're just going to fall in line with whatever they're doing if you even have a different idea than what they had to begin with, which I don't know how many different ways you can really try and go about this with wanting to be as successful as possible.
Yeah, because I feel like if somebody maxes it out, which they will, then
why wouldn't everybody?
Doesn't everybody else in the conference have to max it out at that point?
And like you brought up,
if you have the resources.
Exactly. And like you brought up last week, as opposed to the days of like Bear Bryant and stuff where you could just hoard all the talent within one state, of guys that saying, hey, I just want to play at Alabama or whatever it may be and be willing to wait a couple years to do that. That's not going to happen now with the transfer portal. So you're going to bring in as many guys as you can with just knowing the fact you're going to have a lot of movement in and out on a year-to-year basis, but you're going to routinely try and hit that 105 limit as much as you can to try and maximize whatever you can as far as your roster goes.
I think it further supercharges the transfer portal and the amount of transfers that we're going to have unless there are roadblocks put in place that limit transfers, which then you maybe have another lawsuit on your hands. But I think for moving forward, if you have right now you have transfers, you have guys who came in on scholarships that are like, oh, I'm not playing, I'm leaving, and that's with 85 being the scholarship number. If you add 25 more guys to that, let's say you're Georgia and you say, all right, we're Georgia, we have all the resources in the world, we're going to max this thing out and give scholarships to everybody. Now you have 20 additional guys who are on scholarship, and if you're coming in on scholarship, you think you're playing because you're not going to Georgia if you aren't very good. You've probably been the best player on your team most of your life. You're going in, and then you're like, now you have 20 more guys that probably aren't playing. So what do? You hit the transfer portal. Well, guess what? That same thing is happening to every other school that's out there as well. And instead of having 85 scholarships to say, we're going to add from the transfer portal at this position, that position, to reach our 85, you now have 105 to hit while you've been hit harder by the transfer portal yourself. So I think all this does is drive the transfer portal into, it's already in overdrive, but whatever is next, it continues to drive it even further unless at some point there's a collective agreement of you have one transfer, or because you're getting a revenue share, you have to stay for 2 years. You have to stay for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And unless we get to that,
Binding.
then it's going to supercharge the transfer portal even more, in my opinion.
Absolutely. We'll come back, wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. South Carolina being represented well across the pond in the Olympics in Paris. We'll hit that coming up. It is Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
All right, I want to tell everybody about one of our other outstanding partners here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. It is our friends at Krantz Cooling and Heating. And since 1983, the family over at Krantz has been servicing HVAC at your home and commercial for the past 40 years. They provide top-notch heating, ventilation, and air conditioning services to the residents of Columbia, Lexington, and other communities right here in the Midlands. Again, they're a family-owned and operated business, so as their business has grown, so is their family. My guy Justin Krantz over there doing great work at Krantz. He's been out to my home. I trust Krantz when I have an issue or have a question about my HVAC units. They've come out and serviced them and provided all those answers. They do a great job. Go check out their Google reviews if you need more validation. 803-672-3224 or KrantzCooling.com. That's Krantz with a K, KrantzCooling.com.
the floor.
Great look inside, and Wilson finishes through the contact.
I like the way A'ja Wilson is playing on the move. She could just stand there and put her hand up and ask for the ball. But right here, Chelsea Gray draws 2 defenders, and that's the chemistry between 2 teammates that have won 2 championships together, know how to play off of each other, and Wilson gets the finish at the rim.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris wrapping up today's edition of the show. That was yesterday highlights in Paris as the U.S. women's Olympic basketball team took down Japan 102-76. A'ja Wilson helping lead the way with 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists as, once again, the U.S. women's Olympic national team has not lost a game since 1992 and picked up that easy victory over Japan yesterday in the opening round of the group stage.
Yeah, pretty sweet that a former Gamecock is the best women's player in the world, right? I
Right.
mean, she is.
Yeah, definitively.
Special. Did y'all see, and I just saw this come across Twitter, the Diana Taurasi pass to A'ja? I think it was from that game.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all didn't see it?
I have not.
I mean, this was like, think of the best lead pass you've ever seen a quarterback make, and it's like right on par with it.
I'm looking it up right now.
Like she basically knew exactly where she was going to be on the court and threw her open.
That was nice.
And A'ja, of course, is hustling, running the floor, beautiful lay-in, but it was a clinic for sure. Have y'all watched much of the Olympics? We've got, what do we have?
Is this crew? Rowing, however you phrase it.
Yes, it appears to be. That water polo a second ago.
Yeah, I've watched a good amount. Watched the women's rugby team get kind of beaten pretty badly by New Zealand earlier this morning. But I've tried to keep up with a good bit of it. I mean, the basketball kind of leads the way, I think, for most people. Obviously, a lot of recognition on both those teams. But, yeah, I've probably tuned in more these first couple days than I have in maybe some years past.
Well, I think basketball, you just have, if you're a sports fan, these are already superstars. Like, these are known people with known abilities, known names, known brands. The other sports, you maybe have a superstar or two that stands out and maybe just the average sports fans knows, but for the most part, basketball is where you have people that are already in the public sphere, I feel like.
Do y'all, not to steer us into some people are going to go, the Gamecock fans who don't remember the Caitlin Clark mentions of her name?
Mm-hmm.
It can be triggering. But did you see how Dawn was like, hey, if we had to do it all over again, she'd probably be in pretty heavy consideration.
Right. Because when they made that selection, they only played 10 or 12
It was
games.
early.
Yeah.
I think 12 games.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like the honesty.
Sure.
I mean, kudos of just, like, hey, it's almost like we know she's going to be like that.
Right.
I mean, and she is playing very well. I mean, you remember the first part of the WNBA season, everybody was kind of bagging on Caitlin Clark. She's struggling, and it was an adjustment for her, but she definitely settled in and is playing extremely well now.
Well, I haven't seen a ton of them, but it seems like from what I've seen and heard, aren't her and Aaliyah Boston kind of gelling
They
as
are.
well in terms of being on the floor,
That was
working together?
Don't get my lovely wife started on the coaching for the Indiana Fever.
Oh, she has opinions?
She has strong opinions. Hope she doesn't mind me saying that, but
We should let her come in and rant one day.
I don't think she's all about that, but definitely some rants at home. I mean, basically, it was almost like they forgot they had Aaliyah Boston on the team for the first part of the season. Then they were like, oh, yeah, she's actually, former number 1 pick and pretty good too. And Caitlin Clark typically has had very good chemistry with the bigs on her teams, like at Iowa. And so they figured out maybe they should let those two kind of be a 1-2 punch. And they figured some things out.
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
So I think women are back in action on Thursday. I know the men are back in action coming up tomorrow as we hope to see them continue to secure gold medals for the U.S. You guys have a favorite sport besides basketball? Keep an eye on the Olympics, or just whatever.
Whatever. I liked back in the Michael Phelps days.
Mm-hmm.
I would watch
Yes.
it get better the swimming.
Swimming is epic. I like swim. Soccer, I'm always a soccer guy.
Sure.
The swimming can be very exciting.
There's
though.
it can.
The French kid that's supposed to be like the next Michael Phelps. He looked pretty dominant the other day.
I didn't see that.
Have to check
Hopefully
it
he
out.
doesn't come to Columbia on a game day weekend and party like Phelps did.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Myself and Mike Yuva coming up next on the halftime show here on the game.
All right, guys, before I hand the mic over,